So now that we converted everything to use React hooks and everything's working again here, there is one important thing I want to highlight. If we search for all the usages of useEffect in our code, like here in the app.js file, then here we're describing the dependencies of this useEffect call. And here, for example, I basically say I don't have any dependency, which means this will run when this component is mounted, and that's the only time when this will run. Now we know that this is right because we only want to try signing the user up when this component mounts. Now you should actually be a bit more honest about your dependencies than we are being it here. Because actually, we do have a dependency here. Props. Props can change, right? When this component re-renders, when this app component re-renders, then props here will be a new object in the end. So actually, we have a dependency here, which is props. The problem just is, with that, we would actually rerun this effect whenever app re-renders. Now, the app component in our application won't really re-render, so this won't be a problem here. But still, we don't really want to have all our props as a dependency because the only thing we're using from props is this onTryAutoSignup function. So actually, we only want to re-render this if this function changed. For that, we can use a modern syntax where we use object destructuring to get something out of props and store it in a separate constant. And here, that's the onTryAutoSignup function. Now, this line might look strange at first, but this is normal JavaScript syntax where we're saying we have this props thing here, which is an object, and we want to pull out the onTryAutoSignup key and store that in a separate constant of the same name. This allows us to simply call onTryAutoSignup like this down here, because now we have this function, which is part of our props, stored in the separate constant. And now we can define this as a dependency here on useEffect, which simply means that useEffect will rerun whenever this function changes. And keep in mind that in JavaScript, functions are just objects. So a function can change, a function definition can change. Even if it's holding the same code, whenever the place where this function is defined reruns, a new function will be created. So now we're defining this, and we can do this in all useEffect places. So also here in off.js, where I say I have no dependencies, actually we have props as a dependency, and there we have building burger, of redirect path, and this function as a dependency. So we would be more honest if we actually pull these things out of props with this syntax here, props, and then we're getting building burger out of there. The off redirect path is something we're getting out of there, and on set of redirect path is also something I'm getting out of there. And then we can get rid of props here. We can get rid of props here. And for this onset of redirect path, we can also get rid of it here. Because we're extracting all these values from props in this line, and we're storing them in separate constants of the same name. And now we can simply add these things here as dependencies. So of redirect path and onset of redirect path, like this. Now also in logout.js, there we're using the onLogout function. So again, we should be honest about this. Extract onLogout from props, and then simply use just onLogout here, and therefore now also specify this as a dependency, so that if this function would be redefined and our component would therefore re-render, we would also execute this effect again. Now, of course, this shouldn't happen here, but it would re-execute then. Now here in the burger builder, again, we're using onInit ingredients, so we should get this out of our props here with this syntax, then use just onInit ingredients and also define it here as a dependency. And in orders.js, there again, we're using onFetchOrders here, so let's extract that from our props with this syntax and add onFetchOrders here as a dependency. With that, we should have the same behavior as before, but in a little more optimized way.